Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. It is Tuesday night, so we are doing our live program at 6 p.m. We try to do it every Tuesday, but, it doesn't quite work out sometimes based upon schedule, usually work-related, because that's just the way it goes. When you have a practice that you maintain full-time, you sometimes have to put the real work over the fun stuff, which is obviously doing the podcast, Crime Talk podcast. And for those who maybe haven't joined us before, my name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the great state of Colorado. Been doing it for 30 years. I've been in private practice myself for the last 25. Been doing this podcast since the Chris Watts case because, somebody encouraged me I should go do it. And next thing you know, here we are. And I don't know, we're a little over 300 some odd thousand subscribers on YouTube, 466,000 subscribers on Facebook, getting a ton of downloads on podcasting apps. And it's still a lot of fun. Try to do it every day we can, except usually when we're in trial. And so I want to thank you all for joining us and thank you all for subscribing, because you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps, right? If you're a Crime Talk aficionado, we start the show with that. So what do we want to talk about on this Tuesday evening, October 21st? Well, we brought you the story about Brian Kohberger, and the sister of Ms. Gonzalez had an opportunity to speak with the prosecutors and got to see basically the evidence. And one of the comments that she made was the fact that it looked like Brian Kohberger, like there were wounds on her sister that she described almost like practice or post-mortem, like he was curious in some way. Obviously, I can't speak to anything about that because I haven't seen the pictures because, they've been blocked. But once again, it goes back to the whole point. I know some people are of the position that no one should be able to see the pictures. It's private. Why do we want to see that? Okay. Well, listen, 99.9% of the people out there aren't going to say, I want to go see the pictures. All right. I want to see the pictures. I want to see what evil did and be able then to relay that to, our subscribers and say, this is what evil did. And based upon my 30 years of experience as a criminal defense attorney, I would relay to you of this is probably one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. Stabbing scenes are, by their very nature, bloody, brutal, violent. Stabbing somebody is very personal. It's almost like strangling somebody. It's not like, I shot the gun and somebody got hit, or I shot them from a distance and somebody's really removed from that. No, when you are stabbing somebody, it's personal. It's close. It's right there. And think about it. All the things that can go wrong when you have that knife, your hand could slip, get cut, hit bone, not go all the way through. People are still alive. They could be bleeding out. It's not like, firearm where you hit them in the right spot, boom, they're dead, right? They're still going to be alive for a good chunk of it. And so, I think it's fair. And like I said, you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. You don't have to come to my channel. Frankly, if you disagree with me, let me know. We will put you first in line. We will put up the number as well here. And if you would like to call in, you can certainly do that. Well, we only have one rule, okay? The rule is that you must talk on your phone, not your computer, because there's a delay. So if you call in, you'll go to the system. We can queue up, I think, 30 people at any given time. But you got to turn your computer down and talk on the phone. Otherwise, there's a delay. So call into Crime Talk, 725-228-TALK, 725-8 888-255. And if you say you disagree with me, we will try to take you first. Okay. Like I said, I think the entire discovery file should be released. And if people don't want to see it, then they don't have to. I understand, people, the arguments of, oh, it re-victimizes the family, the privacy. I get that. But there was a very public murder, quadruple murder. And like I said, I think people should know not only what goes on in the court system, how the prosecution handled it, how the defense handled it, and what evidence there was. And maybe we look at it and say, wow, the prosecutor in that case totally went soft. Now, I don't think he's going to run for re-election, but maybe people say, how could you have ever made a deal like that? How could you have ever not demanded a complete confession from him based upon the brutality of those murders? Did you go soft on him? Those are the type of questions that the public deserves to know. Certainly the people there in Latah County, for sure. So that's that point that we can talk about. Now, I don't know if most people don't know this, but last night, the Department of Justice released the transcripts of the interview that was done in July with Ghislaine Maxwell, of the Jeffrey Epstein Maxwell. So, and since I do this, so you don't have to go listen and read, I think 600 pages. Although, Frank, we're putting up we're putting up the audio, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to put up all the audio. The only thing that's redacted from that is from the Department of Justice, and it has to do with some of the people's names. That's it. But you can kind of figure out what's there. So we're going to post all of those interviews. There's several videos. Some are short. The audio recordings are very short. Frankly, I'm a transcript guy. I like to read the transcripts just because it is what it is. But they have day 1, day 2. And we're talking, I don't know, what is it, 600 pages or something, transcripts? It's big. But if you were to listen to this transcript, and I've read through most of the transcript, you would think that Ghislaine Maxwell is completely innocent. I cannot imagine why she is in custody. She knew nothing. She saw nothing whatsoever. Now, then I think to myself, could it possibly be that they completely railroaded Ghislaine Maxwell? Well, possibly, right? Now, I think I told you, her attorneys were based here in Denver. Jeff Paliuca and Laura Menninger, two very, very fine attorneys, I must say. They had local counsel there in New York, but they're both great attorneys. And I always tried to, hey, what's going on? Is anything going on with Maxwell? Can you tell me anything? And no, they never did, because that would be a violation of attorney-client privilege. The only thing that I ever really, and I'm not like we talked on a regular basis, but when I talked to, one of them, I was like, hey, and it was more along the lines of, it's not what everybody thinks it is. I think, and that was like, and that was some of the press statements, like, this is not what you all think it is. Or, the things didn't go on. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know, but we can talk about Ghislaine Maxwell as well, because like I said, I've gone through the transcripts and maybe she's completely and totally innocent. So I wonder, all these women that testified and the jury believed beyond a reasonable doubt, were they not telling the truth? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. And I'm not saying Ghislaine Maxwell is innocent, based upon her, she's completely oblivious, but she's doing a proffer. She's doing a proffer where she is, queen for a day. She can say anything she wants. It can't be used against her in any sort of criminal proceeding. Obviously, this proffer was done even before, just a couple of days ago, the Supreme Court denied her petition for certiorari to the United States Supreme Court on the issue of whether she had some sort of immunity from the deal with Jeffrey Epstein. And I believe it was the Ninth Circuit said no, or Second Circuit said, nope. The immunity agreement only applied to Epstein, and they're in the state of Florida. So you would think if she was trying to get some consideration, she would be like, yeah, this is what happened. And she offered him nothing. There was nothing there, which makes me wonder and go back when all the FBI director, Kash Patel, assistant deputy director, Bongino, they were all saying there's nothing there. But then why did everybody say there was something there and that everybody was going to release it? It's sitting on my desk. Where is it? I don't know. So now I'm really confused. But what I like about the fact that the DOJ released the transcripts for transparency. Otherwise, and that's what it goes back to, whether it's, these transcripts in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, whether it's like, UFO sightings, all the photographs in the Koberger case and all the discovery, release it all. All right. If there's questions, great. If it's overwhelming, one way or the other, so be it. But let the truth come out. The truth, or a pretty darn close version of it, is going to come out. Why not let people see it? Why do everybody think we have to wait 30, 40, 50 years for the truth? Give it to us now. We're big kids. We're big kids, big boys and girls. We can handle tough information. We can handle that type of thing. All right. So we got that. We can obviously talk about Luigi Mangione. The attorneys on Mr. Mangioni's behalf have filed motions to suppress the search and trying to say basically, trying to taint the jury pool, that Luigi Mangioni's not going to get a fair trial because, statements made by the Department of Justice and all the way up to the president. And then we got the Franklin sisters. All right. We followed this case when it first started back in 2023, and there were issues as it related to, maybe something is not exactly as it seems. And I thought we did a pretty good, recap of it today in today's video. So if you haven't seen that, go check out today's video. But this was a Minnesota twin sisters, identical. One, Samantha Peterson, she gets 4 years in prison for basically running into a buggy of an Amish couple, killing two of the children that were in the buggy, 7, Wilma Miller, and 11-year-old Irma Miller. And maybe she had engaged in a few adult beverages, things of that nature, and she was a little scared. So then she called, Samantha then called her sister, Sarah, who was sober, and basically was going to say that she was the one that it was driving the car, and, it's unfortunate, but it was just a terrible accident, that kind of thing. Ultimately, eyewitnesses said, no, I didn't see two people getting out of the car. That's just not right. And then they started running some tests on the, accidents, some DNA and the blood results and what have you. And so ultimately, Samantha comes clean. The sister, Sarah, goes to jail for basically lying to the police. She gets like 90 days jail. And then Samantha gets a 4-year sentence. And she says, I'm in fear and shame. I made a terrible decision to deceive the police and the justice system. And she says, I know my actions disrespected the officers who were simply doing their job and the court that seeks truth and justice. I'm deeply sorry for that. And I have learned truth and honesty must guide my life moving forward, regardless of how hard and difficult the truth may be, she said. So, I don't know. Would if you had a twin? I guess everybody at some point in time thinks, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a twin? You could change classes, share clothes, I guess. Have them admit that you've committed vehicular homicide. The reality of it is that this woman, Samantha Peterson, she got off early. She got off easy, super, super easy. You killed 2 people driving under the influence of methamphetamine. I mean, I don't know why Minnesota is getting so weak up there. Why you guys are so weak. I can tell you here, Colorado, that'd be like 4 to 12 mandatory for each. So you'd be looking at 24 years, 4-year sentence. Maybe it was the Amish. Maybe the Amish was doing it. I don't know. But 4 years for 2 dead kids? Doesn't that seem a little light, so to speak? particularly when somebody's driving intoxicated under the influence of methamphetamine. You'd think on meth, they'd be having super abilities, right? Apparently not. Probably fiddling with her phone too. So it's just, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. But definitely a little, what's the word I'm looking for? I think a little soft on crime up there. Killed two dead children. I know if they were my children, I'd probably be like, oh no, I think 12 years is appropriate. Yeah. And then you lie on top of that. Once again, sometimes, and this is the tricky thing about, criminal defense work, ladies and gentlemen. It's so dependent on the jurisdiction that you're in, the prosecutor, not only just the elected DA, but the prosecutor that has your case, the judge, the witnesses in the case. Do they have it, or what's the evidence? It varies so much. I can tell you, I had similar situation with cases, just kind of back to back to back. It was very odd. All right, and we'll just say it was some clients, separate clients, but they all had similar charges. Let's just say hypothetically, maybe it had something to do with children under the age of 12 and maybe some inappropriate touching, right? And here we have what they refer to as indeterminate life sentence. So even if you got, say the judge says, I'm going to give you 8 years to life, at 8 years, nobody can tell you when, if ever, you'd get out, because, you're doing bad things to, children usually, or to women. And, you're a danger to the community. So literally 3 separate cases, almost identical. One gets probation, one gets some prison and then gets out to do a lifetime sentence, and the other one gets almost 30 years, but a determinate sentence, so it's not indeterminate. So there's guaranteed they'll get out. Almost identical situations, ladies and gentlemen. Doing terrible things to, let's say, 12-year-old girls, 12, 13-year-old girls. And, like I said, different jurisdictions, each and every one of them. Obviously different DAs. And almost 3 separate distinguishable outcomes because of that. And so you just have to really, you can't get too upset. It just depends on the circumstances. And one day you can achieve what you think is a great result for your client, maybe not for society, so to speak, but the client's very happy. And other days you're like, man, that's a long time, but maybe the world's a better place, right? So when I see cases like the Samantha and Sarah Peterson case, where Samantha gets sentenced to 4 years for killing 2 kids driving under meth, you're like, wow, that's okay. I've had vehicular homicides where, leaving the scene of an accident, I can get a deferred judgment on one, and the other one, it depends on what the family wants, and they want to, send somebody away to prison for 12 years. So it's totally hit or miss, and you can get upset, you can get outraged, but it really just depends on all of those factors. It's kind of like when clients come to you and say, hey, I know somebody that had a case just like mine and they got it dismissed. Why can't you do that? Like, well, I don't know. You got the name of the attorney. Maybe we'll call him up and see if he can't do the exact same thing for you. Each case is different, right? The quantity and the quality of the evidence. Like I said, the prosecutor, the judge, maybe the judge is really hard and they're going to say, I won't accept this offer. It's too lenient. Go back and try again. Others, like, wow, you had some really great mitigation. I really, really felt sorry for your client. It really explains, how things are. Let me cut him a break, right? And other times they're like, I don't care what happened. I don't care about his crappy childhood. Don't care. The prosecutor can tell you that. Does he want the offer or not? Well, did I tell you about this? And they're like, yeah, I don't care. This is my offer. Do you want it? If not, we'll set it for trial. Oh, if you set it for trial, the offer is withdrawn. Oh, okay. Let's do that then. It just depends on each and every, every situation is different. So we'll leave it at that. All right. So when I see this case, though, I just want to say it just kind of 4 years seems a little soft for 2 dead kids, but each case is different, to say the least. All right. Now, we don't do super chats. We don't beg for them, so to speak, but it does help get you highlighted. So it's up to you if you want to do it. I'll try to do my best. But Frank has told me that we have a caller. All right. Who do we have on the line, Frank?
We got Olga from Poland.
Olga from Poland, who I think has called before. Has she not?
Yep.
I think she has. Olga.
Yes, I have.
Welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi again. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Better than I deserve.
Okay. Congratulations on your son's wedding in Italy.
Yes.
lately.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lovely.
And also please tell him my thank you for his service.
I
He
will.
Being a military also, I really appreciate that.
Yes. He's been to Poland several times. For those who don't know, my son
I
is
hope-
is a pilot in the Air Force, flies F-16s
Air Force,
stationed
yeah,
in.
I know.
Yeah.
I really hope he enjoyed and appreciated his stay in Poland.
He did. He loved you. He loved you guys in Poland. And he said, he goes, the Polish, they love America.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, about Brian Koberger's case and the pictures, the photos.
Okay. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, what's good in showing the public everything? Why do you want the public to see the photos? What's good in that?
Well, one, because I think that the public should be entitled to know what atrocities have taken place in their community. Those are
But what's
public
good in that?
records. Those are public records. Okay. The government should be able to release them to the public, right? I get it. They can hold them back until
Okay.
after the trial, but at some point they should be made available. Okay. And what it goes to is
Okay.
a couple of things. One, so the community knows what went on in their courtroom. Okay. Now, in their jurisdiction there. And it goes to how was the case handled? Now, for example, the sister, Olivia Gonsalves,
Yes.
the sister of Miss Gonsalves, she goes, talks to the
Kaylee.
prosecutor, Kaylee Gonsalves. She goes to talk with the prosecutors. They lay kind of everything out. They explain what we did. We showed her, she gets to see the pictures and she's like, wow, there's stuff in there that, really kind of make me a little uneasy a little bit, because there were wounds that weren't like defensive. And he was in that house for a long period of time. And it was almost like, I think her words were experimenting or curious, doing things just to see how it would, respond to being stabbed or something. And so if the public knows what a horrible human being that Brian Koberger may very well be, I think we know he's not a good person, right? Potentially could have deserved the death
Right.
penalty. The prosecutor took that off the table. But what's wrong with the public? And I understand maybe you don't need to put them out all on the internet, but at least make them available to the people that want them. Maybe keep track of who gets them. And if they wind up on the internet, you know who to blame, so to speak. There's reasonable things to be taken, but there's lots of people in the true crime world arena, so to speak, are curious and they're fascinated by this, and not like in some gorish way, but it's a way for a quest for the truth. You can go online and you can find the crime scene photos from some of the most horrific crimes ever done. Go back to the Manson case. You can see the photos from the file at the time. They redacted them. Oh my gosh, do you think the world was any safer if we didn't see those? No, we got to see the brutality of the people involved. We got to see what true evil looks like. And we also knew why the prosecutors got death.
Can I interrupt you? Did the world get any better when we saw the pictures?
No, but they had the truth. And what's wrong with the truth?
And why does the public need to know that the gruesome things if this bothers the families?
Because guess what?
We really don't need to know that.
No, we live in a free
It's not
society.
business.
We live in a free society. And I'm sorry for the family. I truly am. I don't want to cause any more pain or anguish to the family. But the reality of it is, I mean, they've gone through all of this. They may have seen the photos themselves. I don't know. At least we know Olivia has. But the reality of it is that we live in a free and open society. And one of the things that we get to do in a free and open society is we get to say things that sometimes people don't like, may upset their feelings, but you don't have a right to not have your feelings hurt.
Ouch.
And I think, I think the public has a right to know the facts as it relates to the case. It was a high profile case, obviously. A lot of people are interested in it. And I think that the public, if they want to see them, they can. There's lots of things on the internet that I don't want to go see. And guess what? I don't. So but it's out there. It doesn't make the world any more dangerous or safer. The reality of it is, but for those that want to see it, they can find it.
And again, my question would be, what good does it make for the public to see that?
It's the truth.
But we already know the truth, that he stabbed all those kids.
There's still people.
We really need to see the pictures, the photos, and disturb the family.
There's still people out there, the pro-burgers, who I think are probably more upsetting to the family by denying that Brian Kohberger was the one that perpetrated this crime and coming up with all sort of fanciful, ridiculous conspiracy theories. And sometimes you just got to show it to them and explain it to them.
None of them called you here.
I understand.
You kept your line open for the pro-burgers and no one called.
Exactly. And also remember, think about it. The Olivia, the sister who went to see the prosecutors and basically had an opportunity to answer, have her questions answered, who's been critical and the family's been critical of it, had a new respect for the prosecutors in the case. After she had this interview with them, after she saw the photos, it raised a couple of questions about what Kohberger had done. And, but she was able to look at them, and this was the family member, and she was able to see it. I mean, it's not like somebody's going to go out like, hey, do you want to look at, these gruesome photos, access for $1 or something. I mean, I guess there's always some scumbag that wouldn't do it. But if there's something of, some significant value, like I said, the brutality of it, the amount of stabbings. I mean, I remember when we had the Chris Watts case going on, and as soon as the case was over, we had put in for the autopsy reports of the little girls that were killed and how they were killed, right? And we went through it line by line. Some people would say, we don't need to know that. We know that their little bodies were stuffed into those oil tanks and, their lungs filled with this heavy crude oil. But you know what? It brought home the brutality of what Chris Watts had done. And some people are like, oh yeah, he killed his wife and kids, no big deal. No. But how brutal was he did it? Not only that he drove by multiple hospitals and fire stations on the way to where he dumped those kids in there, buried his wife in a shallow grave, but then had to we got to see the pictures of how tiny the little hatch was that he stuffed those little girls' body in there and then stuffed them in to leave them to rot in eternity there if they hadn't been found. The public deserves to know what kind of people are in their community, what brutality they can commit, in my opinion, and it helps form and shape public policy. Do we go soft on crime? Do we go a little tougher on crime? All those things. But if the people don't know what's truly going on, I've said this before, at least in the, I know you're calling from Poland, but in the United States, if people knew how much crime really went on, they literally would not come out of their homes. I swear to God. You hear about a couple of things on the evening news. You get here's the story of the Denver Broncos, their schedule. We're going to talk about the weather. A couple of quick news flashes about a couple of, inappropriate teachers or maybe a shooting, and then they move on. Go to the courthouse and see how many people are charged every day. If people had any idea of the amount of crime, they would be shocked. And what people do that you never hear about, and it's just as brutal as what Brian Koberger does. And the people need to know that. It's the truth. It helps how we are going to live as a society.
Okay. So I have another question. Are you not afraid that all the creeps will feed off of the information that we get if the photos or the details get released?
I'm sorry, what was the first part? What would I be concerned about if the details get released?
I mean, the creeps that people will feed off of what we learn, that they will get like inspired or,
if
the brutality.
Listen,
this will just make someone do something. Someone will trigger someone to do something.
I don't know. I doubt it.
Why?
If some freak is going to get triggered by seeing photographs and get inspired to go do something, my guess is they were probably going to do it themselves anyway. And like I said, we live in a free society. What's the old adage? If those who would be willing to give up their freedoms for security deserve neither. I'll take freedom any day. We're all big boys and girls, and we can.
I appreciate that. I really respect that. I'm not sure if I agree with you, but that may be just a cultural difference between Poland and the United States.
Yeah, no, that's okay. You don't have to, you don't have to agree with me. And, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're going to say something here in the next 30 seconds that's going to make me change my mind, but I don't think so. I think that
not the next 30 seconds, but give me another call in like a month or so.
All right.
I'll try and make you change.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rice. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Again, congratulations on your son's wedding, and I wish you all the best. And
Thank you.
I'm still on my way to call Frank about my thesis to contact him and have your little inquiry and interview with you for my MA thesis. This is still on.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Got another call, Frank?
Yep.
Who do we have?
Bill.
Bill, how are you?
Hey, Scott, how's it going? It's Bill.
I'm doing well.
I wanted to ask you, would it change your mind at all if it was one of your children in these photos? Would you want everyone to see one of your children cut wide open?
If it meant that the world would see the evil that was perpetrated upon my child, you betcha. And as long as we attributed it to the person that did it, you betcha. And if it brought the maximum penalty to the individual that's, to use your words, gutted your child, yes, I would. And I would hold it up and say, this is what that animal did to my child. This is why they deserve the ultimate punishment, or going to deserve to spend the rest of their life in custody without ever getting out, depending on the state that you are in. But yes, I would want the world to know what that bad guy was capable of and why he should be behind bars or dead, obviously, for the rest of his life.
Okay, but oh shoot, Turtle Boy's about to go live. I gotta go.
All right. Have a nice night. All right. So, all right. Let's take a look at the comments here and see. Well, let's see. Keep it civil, please. As a pro burger, let's see here. Keep it civil. I thought you were going to call. As a pro burger, some colleagues of mine and I will be doing a group call later to talk about the case and how Brian's appeal is going. Brian Kohberger didn't appeal anything. Don't miss it, folks. Should be within the next hour. Cheers. Yeah, let me know how that appeal is going that he didn't file. Yeah, no. Now, the only recent filing in the Kohberger matter has been the fact that he doesn't think that he should have to pay some $40,000, I believe, that was being requested for basically travel arrangements and things like that that have been made. And, because we call it the way we see it here, we're not so intellectually dishonest that no matter what Brian Kohberger does, he must be wrong. No, we look at it intellectually. I believe that, the families should not be entitled to some $40,000 that they were seeking for travel arrangements and things of that nature that did not happen. The trial was vacated some 3 weeks before. My guess is they could have canceled any sort of thing that they did, as well as some $40,000 that was sent in a GoFundMe page. It's my understanding some of the money was refunded. Okay, you're not out any money. We talked about this as it relates to restitution. On restitution, you're only out what is destroyed, what was taken, the actual pecuniary loss out of pocket expenses that you had. I gave you the example. Something's very similar came up in court, had a sentencing, no restitution. Then the victim said, well, we put in a new security system and we needed it to feel safe. And I say, Your Honor, I object. And the prosecutor and the victims are like, oh, how could you do? We're terrified. This is happening. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. How could you do that? You're not accepting responsibility. And I said, Judge, I'm telling you, there's case law from the appellate courts in the state of Colorado that says you're not entitled to put in a home security system unless that was absolutely necessary, say for like in a stalking case, and it took place, before maybe somebody was arrested. Post arrest conviction, unless there's some ongoing threats, not entitled to say, oh, I need a home security system. Why stop there? Maybe you need to install a new car alarm system on your phone as well. Maybe it's time to get 2 big Rottweilers as well. Well, everybody experiences loss of safety and fear and apprehension and anxiety after they've been the victim of a crime. But if they broke in your security system when they were breaking into the house, that's one thing. But to say I need to upgrade it because, there was no damage. In fact, it helped to catch the person. No, they're not entitled to it. So I believe in this particular instance, Brian Kohberger's attorneys are correct. And remember, I was expecting a lot from the Kohberger attorneys, and they just never materialized into any great legal issues. But they did what they were trying to do, which was avoid the death penalty. That's what happens in death penalty litigation. Usually it's a pretty overwhelming case. Otherwise, they wouldn't go death. And the death penalty's attorneys are trained to avoid the death. We'll trade life without parole for death right now if you let my client plead. Okay. See the same thing with Mangione. What are they doing? They're trying to get death off the table. They know that basically they've won if they get death off the table. Okay. I've explained this before. I've only done one case that was going to go death. We got death off the table. And, you know, it was like, okay, great. We won. Now let's go try and win this trial. Didn't quite turn out that way. But, you know, that's what happens when you got DNA and multiple dead bodies. And it was just a bad case. Pretty overwhelming evidence, right? But we got death off the table. So that was the important thing at that particular time. So you see it in Mangione. They didn't respond within the 14 days. My God, take death off the table. They looked at me crossways in the courthouse. Take death off the table. That's what the Mangione people are going to do, just like they did in Kohberger. Okay. They didn't turn over discovery. It's a due process violation. And the prosecution's like, we've turned it over like 3 times to you. Oh, well, we missed it, but take death off the table. That's death penalty litigation, ladies and gentlemen. There's a whole lot of groveling going on, and it's just the try to, you know, take death off the table. We'll probably see it in the Tyler Robinson case as well in Utah once those final decisions are made. Oh my gosh, there was this, there was that. Take death off the table. That's death penalty litigation. Try to, you know, I think I can count on one hand, maybe one finger of a case that I'm personally aware of where the death penalty was on the table and it went to trial and somebody was found not guilty. Maybe somebody can refresh my memory if there's something else going on there. I don't know. But, you know, if there's another case, but I don't think there is. All right, let's go here to the comments as well. I'm not sure why the Pro-Burgers haven't called in. They got free priority. Let's see. Let's see here. I agree with you, Scott, about the files. My neighbor is crazy. And the cops told me after one particularly crazy episode that he didn't hurt anyone and it's not illegal to be the arsehole that he is. I mean, we live in a free society. I mean, what's next? Well, if we have a trial, it's going to be a little upsetting to the public. Maybe we'll just do them in private now. Because, you know, the public just can't handle that kind of sensationalism and gruesomeness out there. No, of course not. We wouldn't do that. Okay, I get it. Keep the evidence until after the trial. Then you make it available via public records requests so that public can know, right? I mean, think about it. And if you'll notice, let's just go back to the Kohberger case. And also think about also, if you want to go even more so as it relates to the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Remember there in Idaho, they made everything secret. Oh my God, everything's secret. Fair trial, due process, sensitive information. So what? I guarantee you, and it used to be much easier before it was all electronic, but if you go into files these days, now you got to buy them, which is completely ridiculous. People should have public access to public information. Maybe you charge a fee of what you copy like in the old days, but it's a public file. I used to be able to walk to the courthouse, grab the little slip, fill out the case name, case number, hand it to the clerk. They would go back into the big file room and bring me the paper file. I could peruse any file. I could peruse a divorce file. I could peruse a civil case and look at everything. Now you got to pay for access and all that stuff, but you should be able to see it. But now they want to seal everything. Oh, this is sensitive information. Okay, I get it. Take out, but it's still public information. I got a real problem. I mean, we live in America, for God's sakes. You want to start having secret trials and, the government telling you what you can and can't, look at because, you just can't handle it and they know what's best for you. No, that's not why I became a lawyer, is to just roll over and say, you're right, Mr. Government Man. I'm just too sensitive. Thank gosh for saving me from all those insensitive pictures. I just don't know what I would do with myself if you weren't here to protect me. Whew. And by the way, we're going to go see Halloween, whatever number it is, and see gory stabbing and all that good stuff. But by God, we can't see the real crime scene photos But we can go see a movie that simulates it and is probably just as realistic as it. Think about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. You know, oh, we can't do this, but you probably let your teenager go see horrific horror movies. But no, we can't see a crime scene photo. Redact the photo, redact the intimate parts. Nobody needs to see that, right? I get it. It's if you're not used to seeing this stuff, it can be pretty shocking. It'll keep you up at night. It'll come to you in your dreams, bad dreams. But that's the society that we live in. And we can't make everything all lollipops and gumdrops and rainbows and just make sure everybody lives in a little bubble. And then they're absolutely shocked, terrified when they realize, oh my gosh, I don't live in a little bubble. Oh my gosh, this is going on just blocks away from me. I had no idea. What's wrong with the truth? What is wrong with the truth? Do you think you can't handle it? Right? Should we pull up Jack Nicholson? You can't handle the truth. That's what they're basically telling you is you're just too naive and insensitive or too sensitive to see what goes on here in the real world. So just, you go back to your nice little safety, little bubble of your community, and we'll take care of all the rough work for you. You don't want to worry about it. And in the meantime, you elect a DA that goes soft on crime, that gives smoking deals to somebody. So yeah, it's think about it, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a free society. I'll take dangerous freedom any day over the week, any day over the government telling me what I can and shouldn't be able to look at. What's it going to start? Next thing you know, they're going to start telling me what I can and can't read. Maybe what I can and can't see on social media. Huh. Well, that would be wrong, right? But I thought we live in a free society. Well, you just can't. You couldn't stomach it. Question: if the government can ban photos of crime, it can also decide which truths we get to see and which ones we're told to forget. Believe me, I lived it. Mr. Roboto, totally agree. Totally agree. That's kind of what I just said without seeing that, but that's absolutely the truth. I mean, it will change. Question. Scott, what's your opinion on lawyers that still insist Brian Kohberger is innocent? Well, without being too disrespectful, I'd say they're clowns. Being intellectually dishonest. He pled guilty, ladies and gentlemen. He confessed. His DNA was there. If he was innocent, why did he plead guilty? It's not like he went to trial and maybe crashed and burned at trial, but still proclaimed his innocence all the way, and he will fight for the truth. I would say if you're a lawyer and you say, and remember, Brian Kohberger had a team of very experienced lawyers who did, frankly, a very good job for him. They got what they wanted, death off the table. And obviously that was what he wanted. And remember, the attorneys couldn't have gone to the prosecutors in the Kohberger case unless they had authority to do so by Kohberger himself. They're the ones that asked for it. So they had to have authority to do that. So if the lawyer says, oh, he's still innocent, I'd say, man, maybe you need to go check your bar card in because I don't know what you're hanging your hat on. He confessed. It was called a guilty plea. Okay. Now, hopefully that's not too disrespectful. I also wonder if they've ever practiced criminal law. I saw a lot of attorneys, and you see a lot of it. I mean, listen, if there was like a, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. If there was a patent law case going on, I guess I could comment on it. Don't know a damn thing about patent law, but I guess, hey, I could chime in. But I like to kind of stick in my lane here, so to speak, as it relates to criminal law. That's what I've done. 30 years. Tried literally just about every type of criminal case you could possibly, from murders to racketeering to aggravated robberies. I mean, you name it, we've tried it. Horrible sex crimes, crimes against children, you name it, we've represented people on it over the last 30 years. Okay. So I think I know what I want to talk about that. But you notice there's a lot of attorneys that don't practice criminal law, comment on it, which they certainly can. It's free country, right? Got no problem with that. Like I said, I could go comment on, a patent law case and say, oh my gosh, this Apple's really getting a bum rap here or something, name the companies that are fighting over. I don't know. But I would take it with okay, yeah, this guy has an opinion like everybody does, but he's never tried a patent case in his life. And I'm not saying you have to try a case to have an opinion. No, I'm not saying that at all. But maybe you probably need to understand that when your client pleads guilty to 4 consecutive life sentences, it's because he feared something bigger. Okay. Now I've had clients that I've, played, like, hey man, I'm taking the deal. I'm like, dude, you said you didn't do it. Why are you going to plead guilty to something you didn't do? Oh man, it's, I just can't risk it. I got a family. This gets me out of here. Are you sure? Because, you got to admit, when you plead guilty, okay, for all those attorneys out there, great question, Rebecca Bruce, 3598. Scott, what's your opinion on lawyers that still insist BK is innocent? Let me remind you, when one pleads guilty, you admit as a matter of law and as a matter of fact that you did what you pled guilty to. You're not just making it up. We're not talking about a speeding ticket and you get it pled down to a defective vehicle. We're talking about pleading guilty straight up to 4 counts of murder plus burglary consecutive. That is 4 consecutive life sentences. Nobody does that unless you are guilty and you think you have a pretty good shot of not only losing at trial, but getting the death penalty. And maybe Mr. Kohberger isn't so tough after all, is he, when his victims aren't asleep in the middle of the night, and women and sleeping man. I bet he wouldn't be so tough in the real world now, would he? No, he wouldn't. So I would tell those lawyers that still insist BK is innocent, go check your bar card. Let me know how many criminal cases you've ever tried. And do you understand that when you plead guilty, you admit as a matter of law and as a matter of fact that you did it and you are forever guilty of that? Okay. So there you go. Hey, even if I thought Brian Kohberger was innocent, oh my God, I think there's reasonable doubt. That all goes out the window as soon as he pleads guilty, ladies and gentlemen. He had that presumption of innocence, which we gave him. And I, early on with the case, like, oh, this is going to be good. Let's hope there's something sexy in here. It's going to be a great trial. And then what happened? What happened? The DNA popped up. And all these people, these attorneys, they're saying, Brian Kohberger is innocent. Let me know how many DNA trials you've done. Okay? Let me know. Because they're real interesting. And I can imagine when something like this, because I've had many a conversation like this. Okay, so here are the facts of the case. And the client wants to mention all this other stuff, and you keep bringing it back to, and oh, by the way, your DNA is there. Oh yeah, well, I can explain that, right? It was probably transferred, and it was I can leave my DNA anywhere. Okay, yeah, we're right. We can always explore that. But guess what? Your DNA, my DNA wasn't there. Yours just happened to be there. And, your next door neighbors, all those people that, of all the people that just got to get accused of this, your DNA just happened to be there. It is a fingerprint. It is a photo. DNA matters. Juries like DNA. And if the DNA's there, you better have a way to explain it. Oh, yeah, of course, I'm there all the time. Of course, the DNA was there. because they had engaged in consensual sex. Of course, you'd expect to find his DNA from the sane nurse evaluation, right? So, yeah, God bless them one and all. We were just talking about it tonight. We were talking about here in the office, just to give you a thing. And listen, I have had a wonderful career as it relates to some big wins in some homicide cases. And I was like 8. I got 8 not guilties on first-degree murders walking out the door, right? And I was talking, I was like, yeah, I thought, my first homicide trial, I was like, this is great. I got a not guilty on my first homicide trial, second chair, it was great. Like they're hard or something, right? And, I'm talking to the attorney and we were talking about how, this judge, and I've also lost a lot of homicide cases. Don't get me wrong. The last one we did crashed and burned, wasn't pretty. And, the attorney was talking, said, hey, saw the judge and, talking about, clients always ask, well, how many homicide trials have you won? And the judge back in his day as a defense counsel was like, well, I haven't won any, but maybe this time it's going to be the one. Right. But I got 8 not guilties, and just goes to show one of my attorneys never won one. Practiced law for 25 years. Talking to the judge, practiced at least 30, never won one. So, not to toot my own horn, but I guess I am kind of tooting my own horn. But the reality of it is that it goes to, it's easy to have an opinion, but like I said, I'm telling you from 30 years of actually doing this stuff, trying cases, frankly, winning cases I should have lost, losing some that I thought I was close on. Okay. So when I come and talk to you about this is what I'm telling you about. It's my experience. Like, hey, I get it. I when Koberger first started, I hope this is going to be great. This is going to be wonderful. And then the DNA came, boom. And if you've never tried a DNA case, ladies and gentlemen, it's hard. It's hard to get around it. And hell, even when you do have a good one, people are like, I think I told you, the death penalty case that we had this expert. We're like, hey, your numbers don't add up. Your numbers don't add up. And everybody dismissed it. The judge didn't let us bring it in, all this kind of stuff. And then years later, we get this audit that the lab that we were, how dare you besmirch the crime lab? These are trained professionals that can never do anything wrong. They have no dog in the fight, right? And then it turns out, I guess they had some errors that day. Now, it didn't change everything in the big picture, but we said there were issues and everybody poo-pooed us, move along. And then we got the case, the former lab director here in Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the one that signed off and testified, and how dare you question the credentials of her? She's charged with 200 counts of falsifying information. And if they dug real deep, I'm sure they'd find more, but they've already had cases thrown out. But they're tough because people realize, if you don't have everything, because I guarantee you, DNA people, and I guarantee you, in Koberger, they probably had a team of experts reviewing it every which way under the sun, trying to come up with a reason why that was not Brian Koberger's DNA. I guarantee it. They looked at it by probably multiple experts, and all their experts said, yep, that's his DNA. Because there was no challenge for it. There was no challenge to it. All right, we got a call. Who do we got next, Frank?
I don't have a name on it.
All right. Who do we have? Welcome to the show.
Hi, it's Fred from New York. How are you?
I'm doing well. I didn't catch your name, though.
It's Fred from New York.
Fred from New York. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Better than I deserve to be. How are you? What's your question?
I have so many questions for you. So when the pro burgers call in and the masses, feel free to hang up on me at any time. But first, I want to say that I totally agree with you about the crime scene photos. I totally feel that they should be released. If you don't want to look at them, you shouldn't have to look at them. But I think the public has a right to see them. Yeah. And I also feel that if someone in my family or myself were brutally murdered, I would want those pictures on the front page of every newspaper to see exactly what happened and to show the world the brutality that took place. And I don't understand why anyone would feel differently.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when the family members sought a protection order to make sure that those photos were not released. I was a little surprised by it. I mean, I get it. You know, you want your privacy, but you know, they got the guy. He confessed. He pled guilty. But there's a bigger issue there. I would be like, this is what this human being did. This is the brutality, the evil. Evil exists. People need to know and realize and understand evil exists. Okay. Like I said, I've done this. I have represented some people that did not have many redeeming qualities. Okay. I've met some good people that made some bad mistakes. Right. But true evil, the world needs to know that evil exists. And Kohberger is evil.
Agreed. And do you think that down the road another judge will feel differently and these photos will eventually come out and or do you think eventually they might leak and the public will see them whether the judge wants them to or not?
Well, I think the order will remain in place unless the family moves to lift the restraining order themselves, you know, asking that the be released. You know, who knows, maybe they watch the show and they say, hey, maybe Scott's right. The world does need to see what Brian Kohberger did to my kid. The order will stay in place. I would also say I don't want them leaked because that means somebody's breaking the court's order to do that. And that's not right either. I just, you know, like I said, listen, looking at crime scene photos, I mean, it's not something fun. It's not something people want to do. It's one thing to say, oh, look, I watched a movie. Look, all those people died and look how realistic it was. It's another thing to actually see the dead body at the scene, to see them all bloody on the morgue, you know, at the medical examiner's office. And then they, you know, they got the photos that they're all cleaned up and, you know, then they do the autopsy photos. They're not something that somebody's going to get excited about. And frankly, most people aren't going to want to go see those photos. And you would hope if they do, to be one for curiosity in the sense of, oh my God, what does evil look like? You know, what they could do. You know, or for true curiosity, because, you know, this is what they're interested in, true crime. All right. And who knows, maybe if it had gone to trial and it was contested and there was an issue about, you know, maybe there was the right knife, there was something there. Well, maybe those would provide some evidence, right? That it could be done. We've seen cases where, you know, the internet detectives can go to work and find information that the police never had. Once again, it's the truth. Who doesn't want to know the truth on anything?
I agree with you 100%. Switching gears, a big question that I've been meaning to call and ask for a long time is I just noticed that it just seems nowadays when someone is you know, arraigned, it seems that they're automatically the game plan is automatically to plead not guilty. Even with like Luigi Mangione, there's a video of him committing the crime on video, and yet he's pleading not guilty. You know, I'm assuming so the legal team can just throw whatever they can at the wall, just like they did in the Kohberger case, to see what sticks and what we can do to get him out. You know, and reduce the charges, get the charges dismissed. I really don't like this trend. And I'm just curious, like, is there anything that could be done? Like, could the judge, or not really the judge, the DA, could the DA say, hey, you know, plead guilty off the bat, or there will be no plea deal after the initial plea. And, you know, and we're seeking the death penalty, so choose wisely. Is that something that a judge would let fly? Or, and more so, building off that question, not only would a judge allow it, but can you ever legally stop an accused person from pleading guilty at any point during the trial if they change their minds, if they pled not guilty?
No.
And lastly, has anyone ever pled guilty and then still received the death penalty? Is that ever an option?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but let me go back to your previous question about, everybody gets arraignment and it's not guilty. That's frankly the way it's set up. In the Luigi Mangione case, they continued it out a little while, but normally in federal court, by the time you get to federal court, your client's been indicted. Maybe he's in custody, and they have a detention hearing. It's an arraignment, a detention hearing, and discovery conference. They're all combined. The prosecutor hands you a form, and you say, "Yeah, I want all the discovery." Obviously, you go in front of the judge. Judge, we acknowledge receipt of the indictment, waive any formal reading or advisement, ask the court to accept our plea of not guilty. And the reason why that's done is because that triggers certain things, particularly in the federal court. You saw, I don't know if you've been following the case of Comey. He entered a plea of not guilty. They're like, all right, 70 days. It's when kind of the sweet spot to get it to trial. Can't be any later than 90 days. Unless, of course, you file motions to continue, ends of justice, all those types of things. That's the law that's required to be done, because we don't want people languishing around in the prison system to do that. Now, the states are a little bit different, okay? Normally, it starts off with a complaint and information. Okay, then you're entitled to a preliminary hearing if you're entitled to that. So you show up for court. Oh, let's continue the preliminary hearing. Maybe you waive the preliminary hearing for an offer. Then you set it over for an arraignment. The judge is like, hey, man, we got to keep the docket going. Not guilty or guilty? What are we doing? Well, judge, we need a little more time. And you can set it out. And judge, we're close to resolving it. Just need a little more time. We're really close, because we don't want to, when you enter a plea of not guilty, that triggers things in the DA's office, triggers things in my office that I have to do. And if we're not going to go to trial, then, let's not start that process. So that happens. But sometimes judges force you to do that. They're like, hey, this man's entitled to a speedy trial. And guess what? So is the public. So let's move things along and let's roll. All right. And then in some states, like in Colorado, if you waive speedy trial as a defendant, that new 6-month period begins again. Most states, it's like 6 months from the day you say not guilty to get to trial. Other states are, if you waive speedy trial, we saw this in like the Koberger case. Well, you waive speedy trial, so not really any concerns. You're saying we don't need to do it. But here in Colorado, for my example, it starts the 6-month clock all over again. Or if you really need more time, you just say, judge, can we withdraw our not guilty plea and set it for a status hearing? So it depends on the judge. It depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on what you're trying to do for your client. It just, each case is different. But in most cases, the not guilty, it's required. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. It does.
And like I said, I can't think of a case where somebody's pled guilty and then still got the death penalty.
I didn't think so, but I
guess it's possible. Somebody's up for the death penalty. They say, let's plead guilty, and we'll use that as mitigation. Look, he accepted responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't put the family through all this. Give him life without parole. But I can't think of a case off the top of my head. There could be one. I just can't think of one right now. Does that answer your question?
Another question I have.
Sure, go ahead.
It does. Another question I have regarding the Brian Koberger plea deal. Do you think that possibly the judge and the attorneys had like an off-the-record discussion where they kind of came up with, Brian will only plead guilty if the judge doesn't ask him or require him to describe the crime in detail? Because I have a hunch that's exactly what happened. And if so, if that were the case, would that be legal? And also, go ahead.
No, I don't think that happened at all. I think that judge that handled the Brian Koberger case near the end there was a straight shooter. And one of the questions, and don't hold me to this, but I'm working from memory here, is one of the questions is the judge says, is this your entire agreement? Right? You're going to plead guilty. They're not going to pursue the death penalty. You're going to get 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years. Yes. Are there any agreements, or what they refer to as a sub rosa agreement, some side deal, some hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of deal between the judge or the attorneys or the prosecutors, any other promises that somebody's made you or offered to you to get to plead guilty. And he said no. So I don't think that would have taken place. Now, do I think it could have been reasonable to say, hey, judge, I know we got trial like 3 weeks away and we're thinking about a plea. Would the court entertain that? And normally, because sometimes judges are like, hey, we're past disposition dates. If you don't plead guilty by this date, we're going to trial, and you better have a really good reason to do that. And most judges use that to force people to make decisions. A plea cutoff date, and to keep their dockets clean. And then when somebody sets it for trial, every now and then the judge has got to be like, well, I'll accept a guilty plea today, but you better tell your client, never do that again, and don't let the word get around that I'm allowing you to plead guilty. So, no. Do I think there was some side deal with the judge? Don't ask me. No. All the judge has to do is the elements of the ask. There's a really good judge we had forever in Denver. He's since retired. But they would do it a lot in federal court. In my experience in federal court, the judge is like, okay, tell me in your own words what you did, right? So let's say, for example, it was a drug case. Well, Your Honor, I conspired with these other people, and we brought in all these illegal controlled substances, and we distributed them. Those are the elements of the offense. Plea is bulletproof. Whatever. I would have loved for him to say, here's the charges. Now tell me in your own words what you did. I went into that house without permission, and I committed 4 homicides therein, hence the burglary and the 4 people. And I knowingly took their life after deliberation. I would have loved to have seen that, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, same here. Another quick question about the Kohberger situation. I never understood the burglary charge. Did he steal something? Did he take something from the house, or is burglary more of like a breaking and entering?
Burglary is entering the dwelling of another, or like a commercial property, with the intent to commit a crime therein. All right. So if I go into a house or a building with the intent to steal or commit a crime of any kind, that's a burglary. Okay. Let's say you go into your house of your next door neighbor, right? And you guys get in a fight over a football game. You didn't go into the house with the intent to the fight. The fight just happened, right? So you guys get an assault charge. But if you go in there, you go over to the house, you pound on the door. Where are you, neighbor? I'm going to kick your butt over that football game. You charge into the house, you punch him in the nose. Guess what? Not only do you have an assault, you got a burglary.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And obviously he went in there. He admitted to going into that house with the intent to commit the crimes of murder.
You know what else I thought was rather interesting, that I've never heard this correlation before, and I'm curious if you have ever heard this correlation. I'm surprised that it hasn't been brought up. But there's another infamous murder that took place in the early hours of November 13th, where the victims were all killed in their beds. And that's the Ronald DeFeo Amityville murders that took place in 1974. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if Brian Kohberger, as a criminologist, had he studied that case? Did he possibly pick that date as a nod to Ronald DeFeo? Ronald DeFeo also tried to plead insanity by saying he was possessed by demons. Is it possible that Brian Kohberger picked that date to possibly use that as an insanity defense? He thought he was possessed, just like Ronald DeFeo. Has anyone ever come up with that correlation? Does anyone know if Brian Kohberger was familiar with that specific crime?
I have not heard any mention of that, but you would think that given his area of study and, kind of serial killers and mass killings, his interest in that may have come up, but I'm not aware of any. I haven't heard anybody mention that. I hadn't thought about it. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you. So I won't take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you taking my call. I'm such a big fan of yours. I ordered 2 of the keychains, and I was just curious. It says on them, remove before flight. And I was curious, do I really have to remove those before I get on an airplane? Is there a joke over my head?
No. So if you've been following for a while, you know that I'm an aviation dork. I love aviation. I fly. And in the aviation community, a lot of your pitot tubes and your engine stuff, they all have flags that say remove before flight, and they're bright red and they're either white or blue. And so that's what's basically that's taken care of. It's a remove before flight Crime Talk bag. You do not need to remove it before flight. In fact, the flight crews on the airplanes will probably love it.
Thank you for clarifying. And before I let you go, I just have one last question because inquiring minds want to know. Did Frank ever get his food delivery that was delivered to the wrong location? Was he able to get it, or did he have to go home and make himself a sandwich that night?
He had to go home and make himself a sandwich. I felt bad. I really did. But I didn't change the address on the Grubhub app. And there was a sandwich sitting on the doorstep when I got home that night. I felt bad because I ate it.
Oh, we love Frank. We love you. We love your show. It's just I still can't believe I'm on the phone with you because I'm such a big fan.
Oh no!
And I just want to say thank you.
Great call. Hope you had fun. And listen, we don't beat people up on the phone. You had that great insight about the Amityville killings and the dates and the times. I hadn't thought about that. Nice catch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I could probably talk to you off all day, but I'll call back another time.
All right.
And I really appreciate you taking my call. And again, we love your show, and I hope you keep it up. And I look forward to every Tuesday night when you go live.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Great call.
Thank you, Scott. Take care.
All right, let's take a quick look here, ladies and gentlemen. And any other good comments here? Not good. I'm sure they're all good, but let's see if one that jumps out at me. Let's see. Let's see here. I don't know, y'all. There was a joke. Divorce law says if I was headshot my That's funny. Rebecca, I don't know y'all know this joke. In divorce law, if I had shot my husband the day I met him, I would be out of prison by now. That's possibly true. 2, don't commit dating malpractice. That's right. For small fee, go crimetalksearch.com. Yes, we promote that. And as the last caller mentioned, he got his keychain, bag, claim, whatever you want to call it, removed before flight. Keychain, you got that. We got shirts, lawyer, right? Great one there. And actually, we got another one that has like Crime Talk right across the front like that. We got this one. The Constitution matters. Right there. The Constitution matters. Always does. And that's why we do what we do. And let's not forget, need some CBD treats for your dog. The best CBD treats, right? The CBD is the good stuff. It's the one that helps all the aches and pains for humans. Imagine what it can do for your dog as well. And everybody wants the best for their dog. So hit the link below. You'll love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for tonight. Thanks for joining us on our Tuesday night live program. Check out the video we put up today. Try to put up a video every day. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for watching. We know there's lots of things that you could do, but the fact that you came to watch us, we do truly appreciate it. So have a wonderful night. And remember, that's right, the Constitution matters. All right, lawyer.